Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. Her husband kissed her at the airport, then drove straight to marry his mistress with her money. Marina Ellery stood at the private departure entrance of JFK, wrapped in the cashmere coat Graham Whitford had just placed over her shoulders. The morning was cold, the sky the pale gray of expensive lies, and her husband looked exactly like the kind of man women trusted before learning better. He touched her cheek with 2 fingers. "Paris will be good for you," he said softly. "We never had a proper honeymoon. Let me fix that." Marina looked up at him. Graham Whitford was 40, tall, blonde, and polished to a corporate shine. In boardrooms, he was known as ruthless. In magazines, he was called visionary. At home, he had spent 4 years teaching his wife to speak more softly, dress less boldly, and ask fewer questions. Today, he was playing tender husband. He was very good at it. "I wish you could come," Marina said. Her voice was gentle. Her eyes were not. Graham sighed with perfect regret. "The London acquisition is a nightmare. I need 3 days. You go ahead, rest, shop, order champagne, look at the Seine. I'll join you as soon as I can." He slipped a black card into her gloved hand. "Spend anything you want." Marina smiled. That was the first joke of the day. The card was connected to her trust. Graham thought she did not know. He also thought she did not know that in exactly 8 hours, he would stand in the glass sky garden of the Aurelia Crown Hotel in Manhattan, under 10,000 white roses, and exchange vows with Celine Hart, a 24-year-old lingerie model signed to one of his company's lifestyle subsidiaries. Not legal vows. Graham was too careful for that. The event contract called it a brand celebration. The invitations called it a commitment ceremony. Celine called it her wedding. Graham called it nothing in writing. But the dress cost $800,000. The rings cost more. The hotel deposit, floral wall, champagne tower, press package, and Celine's diamond tiara had all been paid through corporate accounts connected to Whitford systems. More precisely, through accounts funded by Marina's money. 3 weeks earlier, she had found the first receipt in the inner pocket of Graham's dinner jacket. Custom bridal gown. Name, Celine Hart. Final fitting, Friday. Ceremony, Saturday. Marina had stared at the paper for a full minute, not crying, not shaking, only feeling the last warm thing inside her marriage go cold. Then she had done what women like her did best. She counted. Money trails. Calendar entries. Hotel contracts. Deleted messages. Vendor deposits. Flight bookings. Jewelry insurance claims. Shell invoices. 1 fake business gala. 1 hidden ceremony. 1 mistress certain she was about to become queen. Graham leaned closer now, still smiling for the driver. "Promise me you'll enjoy yourself." "I will," Marina said. He kissed her forehead. The gesture was so practiced it almost looked like love. As he stepped back, his phone lit in his hand. "Celine." He turned the screen away too late. Marina saw it. Graham saw her see it. For half a second, the lie froze between them. Then he smiled wider. "Client," he said. "Of course." A staff member approached. "Mrs. Whitford, your boarding is ready." Graham squeezed her hand. "Text me when you land." "I'll do better," Marina said. "I'll send pictures." He laughed, relieved. He thought she meant Paris. She meant the downfall. When Marina walked through the glass doors, she did not turn back. She could see Graham reflected behind her, already dropping the affectionate mask, already typing with quick, excited fingers. He believed he had shipped his quiet wife out of the country. What he had done was give her 8 uninterrupted hours to ruin him. Chapter 2. Marina did not board the plane immediately. First, she entered the private lounge, where a woman in a navy pantsuit sat beneath a wall of orchids, drinking espresso and reviewing a tablet. Tessa Lang looked up. She had been Marina's college roommate, then a fashion house attorney, then the co-owner of the bridal atelier where Celine Hart had ordered her gown. She had never liked Graham. Marina had once called that unfair. Tessa had replied that good instincts often sounded rude before they were proven right. "Well?" Tessa asked. "He delivered me personally." "Romantic." "Very." Tessa slid the tablet across the table. On the screen was Celine's dress, white silk, sheer sleeves, pearl bodice, cathedral train. It was beautiful in the way expensive things could be beautiful without being tasteful. "The final fitting happened yesterday," Tessa said. She filmed herself in the mirror for 20 minutes. She told the seamstress she wanted to look like the woman who finally made Graham happy. Marina touched the edge of the screen. A different woman might have felt anger at Celine first. Marina did not. Not yet. The person who broke vows was Graham. Celine was cruel, ambitious, and foolish, but Graham was the one who knew what he was destroying. Did you add the item? Marina asked. Tessa nodded. Inside the waist lining. Completely invisible unless someone knows where to look. Marina opened her clutch and removed a small velvet pouch. Inside was a single platinum cufflink engraved with Graham's initials. He had lost it in Celine's apartment. Marina had found it in a hotel laundry return bag labeled under a fake executive retreat. Now the matching cufflink was sewn into Celine's wedding dress. The legal wife's evidence, hidden inside the mistress's costume. Tessa leaned back. Are you sure you want this public? Marina looked toward the runway beyond the glass. For 4 years, she had been called quiet, polite, decorative. Graham's elegant wife. The woman who never made scenes. She had learned that men like Graham did not fear pain they caused privately. They feared witnesses. Yes, Marina said. I want every camera in New York there. Tessa lowered her voice. Then the press tips go out at 9. The hotel feed will be available through legal event security. Public areas only. No bedrooms, no private dressing rooms. Good. No loopholes. No loopholes, Marina agreed. That mattered. She was not going to ruin Graham by becoming careless. He would not get one clean argument to hide behind. The boarding call sounded. Marina stood. Tessa caught her wrist. And the company? Marina's expression changed. The softness left first. Then the wife. What remained was the daughter of Ellery Capital, a woman who had spent 4 years pretending not to know exactly how weak Graham Whitford's empire had become. At 10, she said. The tender notice files. Tessa exhaled. Your father would be proud. Marina's smile faded. My father warned me about the Whitfords. And you married one anyway. I needed to know what they stole. The silence between them held 20 years of history. The Ellery Group had collapsed when Marina was 17. Her father, Henry Ellery, had been accused of taking illegal loans and died before clearing his name. Graham's father, Malcolm Whitford, bought the remains of the business for almost nothing. Years later, Graham met Marina at a charity gala and pursued her as if fate had arranged it. Marina had believed in fate for 6 months. Then she found her father's old letters. Then she found the missing land deeds. Then she understood why Graham had wanted an Ellery daughter with no visible power and a trust he thought he could access through marriage. The affair had not created the war. It had only moved up the date. Marina picked up her handbag. Tell Grace in security I'll be online when I land. Tessa nodded. Enjoy Paris. Marina looked back once. I intend to. Chapter 3 At 30,000 feet, Marina became someone else. Not visibly. To the flight attendant, she was still Mrs. Whitford in a cream blouse, gray trousers, and dark sunglasses, quietly declining champagne in first class. But the moment the cabin lights dimmed, she removed a second phone from the lining of her handbag. No saved contacts. No personal photos. No connection to Graham. She called a number from memory. The man answered on the second ring. Marina. Julian. Julian Vale was the managing partner of Vale Pierce Capital, one of the most feared private investment firms in New York. He was also Marina's half-brother, though only 7 people outside the family knew it. Her mother had remarried quietly after Henry Ellery died. Julian had taken his stepfather's name and built a career sharp enough to cut through Wall Street glass. Graham knew him as the investor he had been begging for capital. He did not know Julian was Marina's blood. Is he at the hotel yet? Julian asked. Not yet. Good. He signed the preliminary capital letter yesterday. The final wire is scheduled for Monday, pending board confirmation. Cancel it at 9:45. Julian laughed softly. You do like timing. I learned from men who thought timing was ownership. Fair. Marina looked out the window at the white wing cutting through clouds. How exposed is he? Without our capital, Whitford Systems misses 2 debt covenants by Tuesday. If your tender offer files at 10, half the minority shareholders will panic. By noon, he will be fighting a liquidity crisis, a press scandal, and possible criminal inquiry. Possible? Julian's voice cooled. Definite if the hotel payments are tied to company funds. They are. Then he is finished. Marina closed her eyes. Finished. The word should have satisfied her more. Instead, she saw Graham at the airport, smiling as he put her coat around her shoulders. She saw the man she had married before she knew marriage could be used as a legal corridor into stolen property. She saw herself at 29, signing documents she did not understand because grief had made her easy to guide. Marina, Julian said. I'm here. You do not have to watch. Yes, she said. I do. The second call was to Arthur Cole, Graham's executive assistant. Everyone at Whitford Systems believed Cole belonged to Graham. They were wrong. Cole had belonged to Henry Ellery first. After the Ellery collapse, he disappeared from finance for years, then resurfaced exactly where Marina needed him. Beside Graham, quiet, useful, invisible. Miss Ellery, Cole said. No one called her that anymore. It steadied her. Guest list? 196 confirmed. 40 business partners. 32 family members. 27 people from Celine's circle. 6 controlled media outlets. 12 independent influencers added after our anonymous tip. Make it 20. Already done. The first vans are arriving outside the hotel. And Graham? He believes the additional press is due to Celine leaking the event for attention. Marina smiled faintly. Of course he did. Men like Graham always blamed women first, even when walking into traps built by one. Cole, she said, after the ceremony begins, release the vendor invoices to the investigative desk. Not before. Yes, Miss Ellery. One more thing. If he asks where I am asleep in Paris. Cole paused. Are you? Marina looked at the dark window. No, Chapter 4 Paris greeted Marina with rain. She arrived at Charles de Gaulle just after dawn and did not go to the hotel Graham had booked. His hotel was too obvious, too performative, too full of staff instructed to report her movements. Instead, she checked into a quiet suite at the Maison Verte, a small luxury hotel near the river owned by a holding company under Ellery Capital. Her room had pale walls, old oak floors, and windows overlooking wet rooftops. On the desk, a tablet waited beside black coffee, fresh fruit, and a sealed envelope from Tessa. Inside the envelope was a printed card. The bride wears evidence closest to the heart. Marina almost smiled. At 8 a.m. New York time, she connected to the authorized event security dashboard. Public cameras only. Lobby. Sky Garden entrance. Main ballroom corridor. Elevators. Street entrance. Loading bay. No private bridal room. No hidden audio. No illegal shortcuts. Graham would destroy himself where everyone was allowed to see him. At 8:12, he appeared in the lobby feed. He wore a midnight blue suit and a white rose boutonniere. His hair was perfect. His shoes shone. He checked his watch, then his phone, then the lobby doors. He looked nervous. Not guilty. Nervous. That difference mattered. At 8:20, Celine arrived through the private entrance, surrounded by bridesmaids in pale champagne dresses. Even on a security camera, she looked luminous. Young, excited, certain she had already won. Marina watched her touch the pearl bodice of her gown. Somewhere inside that silk, Graham's cufflink waited. At 8:31, Graham called Marina. She let it ring 6 times. Then she answered, voice soft with false sleep. Hello? Did I wake you? Graham asked. On the screen, he paced near the elevator bank. A little. I'm sorry. I just wanted to hear your voice. How is Paris? Wet. Beautiful. Expensive. He laughed. Good. Spend more. I will. He lowered his voice. I miss you. Marina watched him check his reflection in a wall mirror. You do? Of course. Behind him, Celine's bridesmaids crossed the lobby with garment bags. Marina said, What are you doing today? Meetings. Terrible meetings. I may be hard to reach. Poor Graham. I know. He sighed. But soon I'll be there with you. Soon, Marina said. His elevator opened. He smiled at someone off camera. Celine. I have to go, he said. Have a memorable day. I love you. Marina looked at the screen. Celine stepped into the elevator beside him. No, Marina said softly after the call ended. You don't. At 9 o'clock, the first headlines began appearing online. Wall Street CEO hosts secret wedding while wife is sent abroad. Whitford heir to marry mistress at Midtown Hotel. Legal wife in Paris as model bride takes the aisle. Graham's phone began to light up. On camera, he froze. Then he turned toward a hotel manager and said something sharp enough to make the man step back. At 9:18, reporters filled the street entrance. At 9:31, the controlled media outlets realized they were no longer controlling anything. At 9:45, Julian canceled the capital injection. At 10 o'clock, Marina's attorneys filed the tender offer. By 10:04, Whitford Systems emergency board chat became a war zone. Marina poured coffee and watched Graham's wedding become a financial event. Chapter 5 The ceremony began late. That was the first public sign of fear. Guests sat beneath the Sky Garden's glass ceiling, surrounded by white roses and a panoramic view of Manhattan. The Hudson glinted beyond the windows. Cameras flashed outside the entrance. Inside, a string quartet played the same song 3 times because no one had told them what came next. Graham stood at the altar, jaw tight. Celine waited behind the floral arch, smiling too hard. Her father was absent. Her mother cried into a tissue, though Marina suspected the tears were social, not maternal. Nothing ruined a mother's fantasy faster than reporters shouting Mistress through hotel glass. At 10:22, the doors opened. Celine entered. The dress was breathtaking. Pearls caught the light. The train moved like foam across the floor. Her diamond tiara glittered with the fragile confidence of a woman who had mistaken visibility for victory. Graham looked at her. For 1 second, he seemed to forget the headlines. Then his phone buzzed again. And again. And again. The officiant began. Friends, family, and cherished guests, we are gathered today to celebrate the union of Graham Whitford and Celine Hart. A reporter shouted from outside the glass doors. Mr. Whitford, where is your wife? The room flinched. Celine's smile cracked. Graham whispered to the officiant, continue. The officiant swallowed. Love is a promise made not only in words, but in devotion. Marina laughed once in her Paris suite. Devotion. The hotel feed shifted to the entrance. A group of journalists pushed toward the security line. A woman from a major financial network held up her phone, reading live. Breaking now, Vale Pierce Capital has withdrawn from the Whitford Systems financing deal, citing governance concerns. Inside the ceremony, guests began checking phones. That was how modern ruin arrived. Not with thunder. With notifications. A board member stood. Then another. Graham turned. Sit down. No one did. The financial network reporter continued outside. At the same time, an entity controlled by Marina Ellery Whitford, the legal wife of Graham Whitford, has initiated a tender offer that may challenge current control of Whitford Systems. The glass doors did not block sound well enough. The words reached the Sky Garden. Marina Ellery Whitford, legal wife, tender offer. Celine turned slowly toward Graham. What is she talking about? Graham said nothing. His mother, Eleanor Whitford, rose from the front row. She was 70, silver-haired, elegant, and colder than polished stone. She had always treated Marina as a temporary inconvenience in an expensive dress. Graham, she said, what did you do? The question was almost funny. Not what happened. What did you do? Because mothers like Eleanor always knew their sons were capable. They simply expected the world to keep cleaning after them. At that moment, Tessa stepped through the side entrance with 2 hotel security officers and an attorney from the bridal studio. Celine stared at her. What is this? Tessa's voice carried. Ms. Hart, we need to address an issue with the gown. Graham snapped, not now. Tessa looked at him. Especially now. She handed the attorney a document. The garment contains property belonging to Mrs. Marina Ellery Whitford. We have reason to believe it connects to an ongoing investigation into misuse of corporate funds. Celine's face drained. Graham lunged forward. You cannot touch her. The attorney replied, no one is touching her. She may remove the gown privately with female staff present, or she may consent to inspection of the lining. The room went silent. Celine looked at Graham. What is in my dress? Graham did not answer. Marina watched from Paris as the first tear slid down Celine's face. For the first time that day, the mistress understood she was not the bride. She was evidence. Chapter 6. Celine chose the inspection. Not because she was brave. Because the reporters were already outside, and disappearing into a room with security would look worse. A female hotel supervisor brought privacy screens. Tessa directed the seamstress with calm precision. The lining was open near the waist. The platinum cufflink fell into a small velvet tray. Gasps moved through the Sky Garden. Graham closed his eyes. Celine stared at the cufflink. Is that yours? She whispered. No answer. Tessa turned the tray so the cameras inside the room could see. Initials, GW. The matching cufflink sat on Graham's shirt. A reporter outside shouted, Mr. Whitford, did your wife plant evidence in the bride's dress? Tessa answered before he could. The cufflink was discovered weeks ago in a hotel laundry return linked to an executive retreat. The bridal atelier preserved it at Mrs. Whitford's request for property verification. The police have been notified. Marina leaned back. Good. Clean. Legal. Public. Graham's phone rang. He looked at the screen. Marina. For the first time all day, she called him. He answered with shaking fingers. Marina. The sky garden went quiet. She did not speak at first. She let him hear Paris rain against the window. Then she said, "How is the wedding?" His face contorted. "Stop this." "Stop what?" "Do not play with me. I'm in Paris, Graham. You sent me here." A camera caught the moment his face collapsed. "Tell Julian to reverse the withdrawal," he hissed. "Call off the tender. We can fix this." "We?" "Marina, listen to me. Celine means nothing." Celine heard it. So did everyone else. Her mouth parted. Marina's voice remained calm. "That is a cruel thing to say about a woman wearing an $800,000 dress you bought with stolen money. I did not steal from you. No. You stole from the company. You stole from my trust. You stole from the Ellery estate. You stole from every person who believed Whitford Systems was solvent." Eleanor Whitford gripped the back of her chair. Graham's voice dropped. "You would ruin your own husband?" "No," Marina said. "You ruined him. I am only informing the market." He laughed, broken and sharp. "You think you can run my company? Your company?" The words were soft enough that the room leaned in. "Graham, your father built Whitford Systems on land stolen from mine. Your debt is financed by my trust. Your expansion depended on my brother's capital. Your wedding was held in a hotel owned by an Ellery subsidiary. The only thing here that was truly yours was the arrogance." He looked toward the glass ceiling as if searching for air. "You are nothing without my name." Marina smiled. In Paris, alone, she looked down at her bare left hand. The ring was gone. She had removed it over the Atlantic. "Then watch what my old name does." She ended the call. At 10:51, the NYPD entered the hotel. At 10:58, Whitford Systems shares halted. At 11:06, Celine Hart walked out of the Sky Garden in a hotel robe, mascara streaked, tiara in one hand, no longer pretending she had won. Chapter 7. Graham was not arrested for marrying Celine. That was important. The ceremony was not legal. The papers had not been filed. His lawyers had been careful enough to leave him morally filthy, but technically unwed. He was arrested for financial crimes. Wire fraud. Misuse of corporate funds. False invoices. Embezzlement tied to shell vendors. The kind of charges that did not care whether a man said he was sorry. As officers led him through the lobby, reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Whitford, did you use company money for your mistress's wedding? Did your wife know? Is Marina Ellery taking control of Whitford Systems? Where is Celine Hart?" Graham said nothing. His silence was not dignity. It was calculation without options. In Paris, Marina watched until the feed ended. Then she closed the tablet. For the first time in hours, the suite was quiet. The rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds and touched the river. Marina stood, walked to the window, and pressed one hand against the glass. She had imagined this moment many times. In some versions, she felt triumph. In others, relief. In reality, she felt tired. Not weak. Tired in the deep way of someone who had carried a war behind a polite smile for too long. Her second phone rang. "Julian." "It is done," he said. "Board emergency meeting at 4 New York time. Minority shareholders are already calling. Cole says half of Graham's executives are requesting legal counsel. And Celine?" Her attorney called Tessa. "She wants immunity in exchange for messages." Marina looked at the river. "She has messages?" Apparently Graham liked telling pretty women things that should have stayed in boardrooms. "Men do that." Julian snorted. "Constantly." Marina sat at the desk. "Get the documents. If Celine cooperates, protect her from Graham's team. Not from consequences. From retaliation." There was a pause. "You are kinder than I would be." "No," Marina said. "I am strategic. A frightened mistress with receipts is more useful than a destroyed one with nothing left to lose. Father would have enjoyed you." Marina closed her eyes. Her father, Henry Ellery, had died on a rainy November night 20 years earlier, falling from the roof of the Ellery Group headquarters after being accused of debts he swore he never signed. The newspapers called it suicide. The Whitfords called it tragedy. Marina's mother called it murder without a knife. For years, Marina had only grief. Then she found the letter. "My darling Marina, if I am gone, remember this. Malcolm Whitford forged the bridge loan. He means to take the company, the land, and the patents. Do not fight him while you are young. Live first. Grow teeth quietly." She had grown them. Graham had married the daughter of the man his father destroyed. He had thought her harmless because she smiled at dinner. That was his fatal mistake. Chapter 8. Marina returned to New York on Monday morning. The city looked sharper than it had 3 days before. At JFK, a black Maybach waited at the curb. The driver was Henry Wells, white-haired now, but still straight-backed, still wearing the dark suit he had worn when he drove Marina's father to court hearings during the Ellery collapse. When he saw her, his eyes filled. Miss Ellery. No one had called her that in public for years. Marina smiled. Hello, Henry. He took her suitcase. Where to? Whitford Tower. His mouth tightened in satisfaction. Yes, ma'am. The tower stood in the financial district, 52 floors of mirrored glass and borrowed confidence. The name Whitford Systems still glowed above the entrance, though by then the stock ticker had become a national spectator sport. Inside, employees froze. The receptionist spilled coffee on a stack of visitor badges. A security guard straightened so fast his chair rolled backward. Marina walked across the lobby in a white tailored suit, nude heels, and no wedding ring. Her hair was pinned low. Her expression was calm enough to frighten people who had underestimated calm women. Cole met her at the private elevator. Miss Ellery. Status? Emergency board meeting in 12 minutes. Graham remains in custody. Eleanor Whitford is upstairs with 2 attorneys. Malcolm Whitford is flying in from Palm Beach. Marina looked at him. Good. The elevator rose. On the 48th floor, executives lined the hallway. Some had ignored her for years. Some had called her Mrs. Whitford in the tone people use for furniture. Now they stepped aside. At the boardroom doors, Eleanor Whitford stood waiting. She wore black silk, pearls, and the furious composure of a woman who had not slept. You, she said. Marina stopped. Eleanor's eyes moved over her white suit. You planned this? Yes. My son is in jail. Yes. You humiliated this family. Marina tilted her head. No, Eleanor. I televised what your son arranged. Eleanor stepped closer. Do you think money makes you untouchable? No. I think documents make me accurate. The boardroom doors opened. Julian sat at the far end of the table. Tessa stood near the wall with legal binders. Several board members stared down at tablets, avoiding Eleanor's eyes. Marina entered. No one told her she was not allowed. That was new. She took the chair at the head of the table. Eleanor made a strangled sound. That is Graham's seat. Marina looked at the nameplate. Then she removed it and placed it face down. Not anymore. The vote took 23 minutes. Graham Whitford was suspended pending investigation. Marina Ellery Whitford, holder of 26% direct shares and controlling beneficiary of the Ellery Trust's acquired position, was appointed interim chair. By the end of the day, after panicked sales and signed proxies, she controlled 51%. At 5:30, she walked into Graham's office. The room smelled like leather, cedar, and male vanity. His framed magazine covers lined one wall. His awards sat under glass. A photograph of him shaking hands with the governor stood beside a silver frame containing a picture of Marina from their wedding day. She picked up the wedding photo. She barely recognized herself. Soft smile. Lowered eyes. A woman trying to look grateful. Marina placed the frame face down. Then she sat in Graham's chair. Cole stood by the door. Miss Ellery, he said, Malcolm Whitford has arrived. Marina looked toward the windows, where Manhattan burned gold in the late afternoon. Send him in. Chapter 9. Malcolm Whitford entered like a man accustomed to being obeyed by architecture. He was 72, broad, silver-haired, his face lined but still handsome in the brutal old money way. He carried a cane he did not need. 2 attorneys followed him, along with Eleanor, who looked relieved to have a larger weapon in the room. Malcolm stopped when he saw Marina behind the desk. For the first time in her life, she watched recognition and fear arrive together on his face. Not because she was Graham's wife. Because she looked like Henry Ellery. You have your father's eyes, Malcolm said. Marina smiled faintly. You noticed them before the fall? His jaw tightened. Eleanor looked between them. Malcolm? He did not answer her. Marina opened a leather folder. I assume Graham told you he sent me to Paris. Malcolm's eyes narrowed. He did not tell me he had married an idiot. No. He married the daughter of the man you robbed. One of Malcolm's attorneys shifted. Marina continued. 20 years ago, you forged bridge loan documents, used shell banks to create $80 million of false debt, forced Ellery Group into collapse, then purchased its assets through 3 offshore entities. My father left records. My mother preserved them. I spent 4 years inside your family confirming them. Malcolm laughed once. It sounded like a cough. Child, if that were provable, you would have used it already. Marina slid a second folder across the desk. The federal investigators disagree. His face changed. Small. Fast. Fatal. You went to the government? No. Graham did. Malcolm blinked. Your son tried to threaten me with my father's death. His loyalist sent a message from a burner number. That message opened the jurisdictional door I needed. Thank him when you see him. Eleanor gripped the back of a chair. This is insane. No, Marina said. Insane was believing a girl would grow up, marry into the family that destroyed hers, and never learn to read the walls. Malcolm's hand tightened around the cane. What do you want? That was the question. There it was. Not denial. Not outrage. Negotiation. Marina stood. I want the offshore trusts. I want the land deeds. I want the patents transferred back. I want the remaining Ellery assets restored under federal supervision. I want your cooperation with investigators. And I want the Whitford name removed from this building. Eleanor whispered, You cannot erase us. Marina turned to her. You erased my father first. Malcolm sank into a chair. For the first time, he looked old. You would destroy a company over a dead man? Marina's voice softened. No. I am saving a company from men who thought dead men could not testify. Outside the office, sirens sounded faintly below. Malcolm looked toward the window. Marina did too. Black federal vehicles pulled to the curb. No one spoke. Some endings did not require speeches. Chapter 10 Graham called from jail that night. Marina almost ignored it. Then she answered, because some debts deserved a final receipt. Marina. His voice was hoarse. Graham. My father was questioned. Yes. What did you give them? The truth. He laughed weakly. You always did love that word. I married you before I understood how much you feared it. Silence. Then he said, Was any of it real? She closed her eyes. It would have been easier if the answer were no. Yes. His breathing changed. That is why I hate what you did, she said. Not because you fooled a woman who never cared. Because you took something real and decided it was useful. I was going to tell you. No, Marina. You were going to let me come back from Paris to a clean house, a smiling husband, and a mistress hidden under non-disclosure agreements. You were going to let me sleep beside you while you carried another woman's wedding perfume on your skin. His voice cracked. Celine meant nothing. She heard you say that. He said nothing. You should know something, Marina continued. She gave investigators your messages. Graham swore under his breath. There he was. Not heartbroken. Exposed. Do you love me? He asked suddenly. Marina looked at the city outside Graham's office. The question was too late to matter and too selfish to be tender. I loved who I thought you were. And now I know what you cost. His voice lowered. If you take everything, what am I supposed to be? Marina thought of her father's letter. Her mother in the small Queen's apartment. The years of eating grief quietly while the Whitfords hosted galas on stolen land. Honest, she said. Try that. She hung up. 3 weeks later, Graham pled not guilty to multiple charges. His trial would take months. Malcolm's federal case would take longer. The business press turned the story into a dynasty collapse. Lifestyle magazines preferred the wedding scandal. Social media preferred Celine in a hotel robe, tiara in one hand, staring at reporters like a woman waking from a dream she had paid too much to enter. Marina did not feed any of it. She worked. She renamed the company. Whitford Systems became Ellery Group again at 9 a.m. on a Monday. The old logo came down from the tower in front of a crowd of reporters. Marina stood on the steps in a pearl gray coat while workers removed each letter. W-H-I-T-F-O-R-D. When the last letter disappeared, she felt something inside her loosen. Not heal. Loosen. A new sign rose by afternoon. Ellery Group. The letters were simple, dark, and strong against the glass. Reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Whitford, what does this mean for your husband? Ms. Ellery, do you consider this revenge? Will you testify against Malcolm Whitford? Marina turned. The cameras went quiet. My name is Marina Ellery, she said. I am not here to discuss revenge. Revenge is personal. What happened here was restitution. She paused. My father built a company. It was stolen. My mother survived the wreckage. I married into the family that benefited from it because I needed proof. I found it. Today the name comes home. The cameras flashed. She walked down the steps. Julian opened the car door. Where to? He asked. Marina looked at the skyline. Queens. Chapter 11. The apartment building in Queens had not changed much. The brick was darker. The front steps had been repaired. The corner grocery was now a pharmacy. But the third-floor window where Marina's mother had kept basil plants still caught the afternoon sun. Marina stood outside the old door with a small brass plaque in her hand. Henry Ellery and Sophia Ellery lived here after losing everything. They did not lose their name. Julian stood beside her, unusually quiet. Tessa held the screws. Cole, who had insisted on coming, held the toolbox. No reporters. No cameras. No board members. Just the people who understood that some victories were too sacred for applause. Marina fixed the plaque to the door herself. Her hands were steady until the final screw turned. Then they shook. Julian took the screwdriver gently. "You did it," he said. Marina looked at the plaque. For years, she had imagined this as triumph. She thought she would feel fire. Instead, she felt grief, immense and quiet, rising from somewhere older than the marriage, older than Graham, older than the tower. "My mother should have seen it. She sees it through you." Marina smiled sadly. "That sounds like something people say when they cannot fix death." "Yes," Julian said. "But sometimes true things are useless and still true." She laughed through tears. Later, she returned alone to the Ellery Tower. Her office was not Graham's old office anymore. She had removed the leather furniture, the magazine covers, the glass trophy case. The room now held a long oak desk, shelves of legal binders, framed photographs of Henry and Sophia Ellery, and one window left bare so the city could not be softened. On the desk sat Graham's black card, the one he gave her at the airport. "Spend anything you want." Marina picked it up and cut it in half. Then she placed both pieces in an envelope marked evidence. She had learned not to throw away proof. That evening, she sent one final instruction to the communications team. Create the Ellery Restoration Fund. Its purpose would be simple: legal and financial support for women whose spouses used marriage to access, control, or drain their assets. Tessa called when she saw the draft. "You are turning betrayal into infrastructure." "No," Marina said. "I am turning survival into doors." Chapter 12. 6 months later, Marina walked through the lobby of Ellery Group without anyone looking through her. People stood a little straighter. Some out of respect, some out of fear. She accepted both but fed neither. The company was stable. Not healed. Stable. The fraud review continued. Several executives had resigned. 2 had confessed. 1 had tried to flee to Zurich and discovered that airports did not care how expensive a man's watch was when federal warrants were active. Celine testified. She did not become Marina's friend. Stories did not need that kind of neatness. But she told the truth under oath. She admitted Graham promised her a future, a title, and access to a life she had been too dazzled to question. She admitted she knew Marina was still married to him. She admitted the wedding was meant to make her feel chosen and Marina erased. When the prosecutor asked whether she regretted it, Celine cried. "Yes," she said, "but regret is not innocence." Marina respected that answer more than she expected to. Graham's trial began in winter. He looked thinner in court. His hair was still expensive, but prison had taken the ease from his face. When he saw Marina enter in a dark green suit, his eyes followed her like a man watching a house burn in which he had hidden all his mirrors. She did not sit behind him. She sat with the prosecution witnesses. Malcolm's case moved separately. He was too old for theatrical collapse, but not too old for indictment. Eleanor sold 2 estates to pay legal fees. Her public statements grew shorter each month. The Whitford name did not disappear. Names like that rarely did. But it changed. It could no longer enter rooms first. That was enough. On the anniversary of the airport goodbye, Marina flew to Paris. Not because Graham had sent her. Because she chose it. She stayed in the same suite at Maison Vert. The river looked silver beneath the morning light. Rain tapped softly against the windows. This time, no hidden phone waited in her bag. No security feeds. No countdown. No husband pretending love beside a departure gate. She ordered coffee and sat by the window. For a long time, she did nothing. At noon, Julian called. "Working?" "No." "Plotting?" "No." "Are you ill?" Marina smiled. "I am sitting. Just sitting." "Yes." He was quiet, then pleased. "Good." After the call, Marina walked along the Seine. She bought a book from a riverside stall. She ordered lunch in imperfect French. She watched tourists take photographs of themselves and thought, with surprise, that she no longer wanted to be elsewhere. For years, she had lived in strategy. Before that, in grief. Before that, in someone else's version of marriage. Now, for one afternoon, she lived in a city where no one needed anything from her. At sunset, she stood on a bridge and took out the old boarding pass Graham had bought for her. She had kept it, not as a wound, as a receipt. Marina tore it once, then again, and let the pieces fall into a trash bin beside the bridge. Graham had thought sending her away would give him room to betray her. He had not understood that distance can sharpen a woman who has finally seen the whole board. The trip had not exiled her. It had returned her to herself. That, Marina thought, was the part he would never understand. The deepest revenge was not taking his company. It was reaching a day when his name no longer changed her breathing. She turned from the river and walked back through Paris under the gold evening light, no longer anyone's unsuspecting wife, no longer anyone's hidden heir, no longer a daughter carrying only grief. Marina Ellery was going home. And this time, every door would open under her own name. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more stories about quiet strength, hidden truth, and the moment a woman finally stops letting betrayal write her ending.